Rebellions are built on hope.
Star Wars News. Incoming transmission. Radio Rebellion.
Welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Alberto Calderon. Thanks for joining us. And I know Star Wars news got in during the introduction. Sorry, it's excited. Star Wars news wanted to jump in. But today we're talking all about the High Republic, that big publishing idea that Star Wars had, Lucasfilms had. It's been going on since beginning of the year, since January. It's taking over everything Star Wars, and I am extremely glad for it. Love the High Republic so far. We're going to have a great chat today. Great guests. We're going to be talking about a test of courage, Light of the Jedi, Into the Dark. Maybe some now mastermind makes his way into the conversation. You never know. Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, you don't know. With this guest, everything's up for grabs. We'll see where it goes. But I, for one, are extremely excited. And you know what? I always spend like 5 minutes just going over everything. We're not going to do that today. We're going to go straight into our show. We're going to, because I always forget. Make sure if you're watching this now, later, 20 minutes from now, the replay, a week, next year, whenever you get to it, make sure that you like the video. Give it a thumbs up. It's pretty easy. Just hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening to this later in the replay, make sure to leave a comment about the High Republic, anything High Republic, Star Wars, the show. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, don't be too harsh. It doesn't matter. But we try to keep it positive here in Radio Rebellion. And subscribe. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so you don't miss any new episodes. But you guys know, every Saturday at 5 p.m., we try to be here with you guys. Have some fun for an hour and a half. Sometimes we're here for 2. It depends on the conversation. I know a few guys, of course, in the chat. Thank you for being here, and we're going to have fun. So with that said, let's go ahead and bring our guest in. You know her. I've been fortunate enough to have been in a few live streams with her. She has a brand new podcast coming up in a few days, actually. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. So let's bring our guest in, Arezou Amin. How are you doing, Arezou?
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're talking a little bit before the show. I've been, like I said, honored and privileged to be, I guess, with you and some of the other Geeky Waffles on some of your streams talking about the Clone Wars Season 7, the Siege of Mandalore, and also some of the live recaps for
Mandalorian.
the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So those were great. Thanks for having me on those, because I have fun when I'm over there. You guys
We
are...
tormented you a bit, but I think we had
Yeah,
a
I
good
know.
time.
As soon as those shows, because they're late, it always starts around 8, sometimes a little bit later. Once you go past that 1.5 hour mark, it's my fault for putting myself in that position, but it's always great. So, like I said, you have a brand new podcast starting, because even though I don't know if it's your first hosting gig as just the main podcast host, but you've been doing podcasts and YouTube Star Wars live stream for a while now, but this will be, correct me if I'm wrong, your first official podcast on your own with the Geeky Waffle Network, Space Waffles. So talk a little bit about that. I know it's about to start. What can we expect from it?
Okay, so yes, you're right. It's my first hosting gig. So I've been co-hosting on the Geeky Waffle, and then this one I'm the lead. I am the producer, the editor now.
Oh, wow.
So this is my baby, and what you can expect is just a wide variety of Star Wars. So it's not like a news show type thing,
Sure.
because it comes out every other week. So
Okay.
it would be too much to catch up on. So it'll be like in-depth topics like we do on the Geeky Waffle, and we're going to talk about books, because if you can see behind me, I love the books. So we're going to talk about a lot of that, and like the new shows as they come up and things like that. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Where did the idea came from? Because if you're familiar with the Geeky Waffle Network, they have when I was a Star Wars show, but they started with a lot of Star Wars topics. Now it's branched out to a lot of different other topics and fandoms and things of that nature. What led to now Space Waffles, and where did you come into it? And yes, Arezou, you're gonna be the host, editor, everything. It's all on you.
So where it came from, a couple things is one, I have my blog, I have arezou.com, but I sort of wanted a easier way to talk first about books, just because, when you really get into it, you get all excited about it. It's hard to sort of paragraph by paragraph it. So it started just as me floating that to Candace. And then I have a reputation, as you mentioned at the beginning, because we never know when it's going to veer into Kylo Ren Ben Solo territory, that everything sort of it's not just me, it's Candace and Brie and Vanessa too. Everything sort of steers back to Star Wars. So we're like, okay, if we had a dedicated space for that, it's not that it's going to happen any less on the Geeky Waffle, because it did happen recently while we were recording. But because that is a fandom that we are very active in, that we know a lot about, that we're very passionate about on multiple different fronts, that we thought having one dedicated spot for that would be the next natural step.
Cool. And when can we expect the first episode to
come out? First episode comes out Monday the 19th.
Come on. So
2 days
great to
away.
have you here before the official release premiere of the Space Waffles. And I think it's not easy, but I always like to know where the idea for the name came from. Space Waffles shouldn't be too difficult, but where did you guys decide, okay, that's going to be the name for our Star Wars podcast?
I think we were trying to keep it sort of in theme with the Geeky Waffle. And then we realized, because Candace especially is a huge fan of Star Wars Rebels, that waffles are canon in the Star Wars universe because you see them in Rebels. Like, well, if it's canon and it fits our overall image, then Space Waffles. So that's where it came from.
All right. So I mentioned at the beginning, because if people follow you on Twitter or Maggie or anyone from the Geeky Waffle, a lot of times there's a lot of back and forth between you guys talking about everything comes back to Ben Solo and Kylo Ren when you're part of the conversation. So quick, if we can, because we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. What's Kylo Ren, Ben Solo? I don't know how to frame that question, but
what's the fascination?
Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. The fascination. I don't know. So yeah, I guess, what are your thoughts on the character himself? I don't want to get too much into his arc in Star Wars, because I know a lot of people are not too happy with the end. Hopefully he's come back or whatever. Where did everything for you kind of, yes, Kylo Ren, we gotta talk about it?
So I like the types of characters where there is a lot of backstory and a lot of sort of internal conflict to them. And the sequel trilogy characters all have that. They are all dealing with a lot of external pressures, which they get more into in like the books and stuff. So with Kylo Ren, like, immediately am sympathetic to him in The Force Awakens, purely because of whose kid he is. Yeah. Right. You can't help but, at least for me, couldn't help but feel bad for him, because how does the child of two heroes go so wrong so fast? And then I kind of kept that. And part of it is the performance of the actor, because I think Adam Driver does a fabulous job with it. And that's it. It's basically, it is his internal conflict. It's his arc. Like, I know I didn't care for the end. Hopefully he'll come back, like you said, but it was the arc he was given of this falling to the lowest point when he had the potential to shine so brightly, and pulling himself back out of the dark into the light. Okay. Like, nobody pulled him there. He pulled himself out. And I think there's something beautiful in that.
Yeah. When you say that you didn't like too much how it ended, just that that's something that we've grown accustomed to in Star Wars, in a lot of other movies or books or whatever. Part of the redemption arc, it's that person dying at the end. Is that the main issue? Because he's redeemed, he's dead, now he can really either live his life or have to deal with the consequences of his previous decisions. Is it that what you want to see hopefully come back and explore it?
Yeah, that's exactly. We actually talked about this on the Geeky Waffle a few months ago, about redemption equals death is not a trope we enjoy. Just because if you do the one good thing and then die immediately after, there are still the consequences of your actions that the rest of the world has to deal with. And to write that character's death is the easy way out, both for the character and for the storyteller. Because as a character, you don't have to deal with anything you've done. And for the writer, you don't have to imagine what atonement in this world looks like. but we would have liked, like, I'm not suggesting that he come back and be made like president or chancellor of the new republic. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. But for somebody who is canonically like 29, like younger than me, to do one good thing and then die immediately and never have a chance to make everything okay and sort of live his life and go back to his mom, which is what freaks me out the most, that his mom never saw him again.
Yeah.
Like, for none of that to happen, that's a shame to me. So,
yeah. No, I'm not a Raylo. Nothing against people who are. It's like what you like. And I understand, because I'm one, when I see a lot of people, oh, just bring Ben Solo back, or use the War Between World or whatever. Oh, he deserves to be happy living with Rey or whatever. And I'm not really interested in that. I was a lot more interested in, okay, you survive, because he might be redeeming Rey's eyes, let's say, for example, but not to the whole galaxy, like you said, and then having to deal with those decisions that he made and consequences. So I was interested in that part, not in the, oh, he's alive now, he helped kill the emperor, now he's happy and let's go kumbaya. No, give me that part that you
that was never going to happen. Like, I am a Raylo, but even then I'm like, okay, she forgives him.
Yeah.
Nobody else has. And they still have to.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot about Darth Vader. So Vader died, and everyone talks about the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, and it was just for Luke and Leia, because we know from Bloodline and everything else, Leia doesn't go to be the next Chancellor because they find out that she's Vader's daughter, and for the whole galaxy, Vader is still the bad guy. So he's really not redeeming the whole galaxy of Star Wars, just in his close family, I guess, that were there to know what happened. And it would be interested to see something like that explored with Kylo and Ben, either in another movie or books or TV series. So we'll see. No one's really dies in Star Wars. Everyone can come back.
Darth Maul got cut in half and thrown down a tunnel and lived for another 20 years. Like,
and became one of the greatest bad guys out there in Star Wars. I gotta say, thanks to the Geeky Waffle, when I was checking their episode on the Phantom Menace, he got chopped in half. I believe it was Candace that says choppy in half for Darth Maul. And I love that phrase. And I think after that, I thought I got to have them on the show one time. So yes, every time I see Darth Maul get chopped, he got choppy in half. So what's your Star Wars story? What led you to, and that's, again, let's talk about real fans, or you're not a Star Wars fan. That was the big conversation on Twitter a few days ago. Some jackass put a comment out there about Darth Revan. I've never played those games. I don't care. And I've been a Star Wars fan since so whatever. But so I don't want to say that people that get to the level of doing a podcast are super fans or anything, but there has to be some level of more than just liking the movies to get to this point. So what is your Star Wars story from watching the movies, if you remember the first time, to being such a passionate fan that led you to be on all these shows and now have your own Star Wars podcast?
So where it started was, watching the movies, the originals, right before the Phantom Menace came out, like within a year before or so. And then from there, just kind of watching them as they were released and enjoying them for what they were. But we kind of lived somewhere at the time where I couldn't get all of the supplementary stuff, like the magazines, the toys, none of that. So it was just the movies when they came, and that was it. And then it ended. And then we moved back to Canada. So I'm like, okay, this is a comfort watch. We're just going to keep this on the back burner. Then the sequels get announced. And I remember watching the Force Awakens trailer, screaming at the top of my lungs when the Millennium Falcon is doing
Oh, that's so great.
Oh my God, it was such a beautiful moment. I'm like, clearly I'm not over this. And then, like watching those as they came out and getting a little more invested. And then I remember this very distinctly. The Last Jedi came out, which I loved. Somebody I know did not. And felt the need to tell me why I was wrong for liking it, and canonically why it didn't make sense. And because my primary motivating drive is spite, I'm like, that's it. I'm never losing this argument again. So I started reading all the canon novels. I'm like, because I'm going to have information on my side next time.
I'm coming back for this.
Me and this friend have not talked about Star Wars since, but here we are. So
let's do it now. Just call them out.
I'm ready now. So I just sort of started reading everything and then really dove into it just very personally, like a passive fan on the internet. And then, it was building. And then lockdown happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I need to keep busy while I'm stuck at home and I can't do anything. So I started blogging about the books. I'm like, I'm going to start at the beginning again with Dooku Jedi Lost, and I'm going to go all the way through to like the last point in canon, and then we'll find other ways to keep this going.
Sure.
And I said, this is going to take 6 months, maybe. No, wait, it was less. It was like 4 months. This is going to take 4 months to get through all the books. So it's been over a year.
Yeah.
I'm not finished yet. And yeah, so I just started doing that on my own. And then I met Candace through Twitter and started writing for the Geeky Waffle and co-hosting occasionally. And I was co-hosting with Beyond the Blast Doors Network for a while. And yeah, then it just started building from there. And then I met all of our friends sort of through this Twitter podcasting circle. And then it just kept building and building and building.
Cool. Great story. Because you said you watched the originals a little bit before the Phantom Menace came out, the prequels. Did you know part of the story before you watched it, that Darth Vader's Luke's father? Did you see that through watching the movies? Do you remember when that happened? Because I tried. Everyone I asked, they don't remember. They either knew about it without watching the movies, or it just got forgotten in the ether like me. I don't remember when I found out about it. Do you remember that scene when Vader said to Luke that he was his father?
Vaguely. I remember we watched all three of them the same day. It was like Saturday or Sunday. So there was no waiting in between to like wonder what's going to happen next. It's like, let's find out what happens next. So A New Hope, I somewhat remember. Like I remember the middle part with Luke, Leia, and Han. And then Empire Strikes Back, I remember kind of drifting in, and I'm like, this is confusing and I don't know what's going on. So I think by the time we got to I Am Your Father, I'm like, sure.
Whatever.
And then, sure, why not?
If you say so.
Return of the Jedi, I remember very well. Like, especially I loved the end with Palpatine, Vader, and Luke. Because my parents were like sitting with me and going like, that's when it really hit home, like the Darth Vader's Luke's father, because they're like, this is what a parent does for their child. This is how much he loves his son. And I'm like, whoa. At like 7, just like so that's my more distinct memory, is the throne room at the end of Return of the Jedi. I think with Darth Vader, I'm like, okay, that's his dad.
Whatever. Let's just go to the next movie. I'm sure they'll explain it over there.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So before we jump into our main topic, what are you looking forward in Star Wars? There's a lot of more High Republic books coming, a lot of other novels. You talked about your blog. Part of your podcast is going to be talking about all the books that are coming. We have Thrawn coming in a few weeks and whatever, a bunch of new books and comics, all the TV shows, a couple of movies that we know about. What are you looking forward in Star Wars?
So other than the High Republic books, which I'm very, very much looking forward to, I'm looking forward to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, because I'm a huge Obi-Wan Kenobi fan. And the Book of Boba Fett, which I don't think I would have been saying 5 months ago, but so excited for the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay. I had a note here. I was going to skip it, but I'm going to... So, #Bonek. You're part of the Boba Fett Fennec Shan. So, where did that come from? I had Maggie here a few months ago, end of February. And I remember either her, you, or someone posted #Bonek when that episode happened with Boba Fett. And I was like, we don't need everything to be a ship. I understand it, but Boba Fett's my guy. He's back there. But then the end happened and that post-credit scene happened. And I was all, yes, those guys are right. I'm going to call them right now because, yes, it has to happen. When did you had that? No, there's something here. And do you think it might get explored a little bit with the Bad Batch coming in a few weeks? That we get something there, or?
Okay, so where this came from is after the tragedy, after chapter 14. I think I texted like Candace, Maggie, and our friend Nora Hall. I texted the three of them, and I'm like, so these two are a couple, right? Like just because of the nature of how they both ended up there. Because the way we're reasoning it is, Fennec Shand was shot and left for dead, and Boba Fett came and picked her up. And based on like the progression on Navarro, we're like, it's been a few months, probably. So he picked her up a few months ago. He's got no reason to help her, but he saves her life in an extremely complex way.
Sure. Yeah.
And she's still hanging around. Like whatever debt she agreed to pay is probably paid by this point. She's still here. So we're just like, there's something compelling in these two people who have both literally been left for dead in the sands of Tatooine, and like them finding each other and coming together in like common cause, and just, I don't know, there's something really sweet in that.
Yeah.
So
and it's because you don't think like me that grew up with Boba Fett, and I know a lot of people, he's just a cool looking character that dies stupidly. Yeah, whatever. Yes, he's cool. That's all I care about. And then we see him coming in Mandalorian. He's kicking all sorts of butt. Yeah, he's back. Finally, he's redeemed again. But talking to Maggie and now talking to you is, yeah, that's cool, but it's this other part, this other side of this character. Is that what really gets you interested for the Book of Boba Fett, that delves more into the character, that side of the character, not just taking over?
Because I'm pretty sure Maggie's the same, but neither of us cared about Boba Fett until the tragedy.
Yeah.
Because to us, it's like he's a cool image in a suit. But there's, even despite the Clone Wars episodes with him as a kid, despite Attack of the Clones, we don't really know who this man is beyond like a very good bounty hunter who got kicked into the Sarlacc pit. So when he shows up and he proves, first of all, that he can kick all kinds of butt without the armor. And then also he's got this like code of honor to him. And he's got this like really cool, like not cool, but like this really interesting personality beyond the armor. And I think credit goes to Robert Rodriguez directing the episode, because in the Mandalorian Gallery, he was saying that, he's always thought Boba Fett was cool, but he wanted to show the audience why he thinks Boba Fett is cool. And he's like, I want to show them my Boba Fett. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, because up until now, I think the assumption has been, well, you think Boba Fett's cool, right? So here's Boba Fett. But Robert Rodriguez is like, maybe you don't think he's cool, but here's why I think he's cool. Yeah. And then I love that he is the one show running Book of Boba Fett. I'm like, so we're going to take that energy into this series. Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. And like I said, Boba Fett was my favorite character growing up, so I'm extremely excited for it. And just to see a different side of it, it helps that we are in a different stage of this character's life. He's an older Boba Fett, with Temuera Morrison being a great actor and bringing that sort of his own experience and his heritage into the character is going to be great. All right, so I know we can keep talking about all that, but we're here to talk about the High Republic. But before we go, let's say hi to a few people that are on the chat today. Oti from El Podcast de Star Wars is going to be here in 2 weeks, I think. We're going to do our big Revenge of the Sith live watch party. He's going to be here. So he's saying, waiting for this all weeks. He won't be able to stay for the whole free, but we'll catch it later. Big fan of you, of Arezou. So. And then, of course, Andres Ramirez, who was here when we talked about Into the Dark from the 60-minute podcast, is here. Famous last words. This creative project will only take a few months. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our friend Dale is back. Dale, how you doing? Hopefully your garden is doing good. Dale, you said you have weather's getting better. You're working outside. It has to happen. And Andres is also chiming in, talking about Book of Boba Fett. I think it was. I like to think they both align with each other after years of being just death tools for the Republic, Syndicate, Empire, completely. Yeah. And of course, our friend hasn't been here now. How are you doing, Cam? Cam Raids up. Hi, Cam. So, all right. With that said, I think we're ready. So if you guys are ready, I'm not ready. Let's talk Star Wars. And today we're riding the storm of the High Republic. Ride the storm, and love that shirt from that Hope shirt.
That's Hope. Yeah.
So we gotta show that shirt.
And these are Tories. These are High Republic as well. I got dressed for the occasion. I couldn't help it.
I don't have any High Republic, so I got the books here. Let me at least show the books so people. Yeah, I got them. I read them. There you go. I gotta get some High Republic stuff. So great shirt, great bracelet. You got a High Republic manicure that you posted on Twitter yesterday.
I did Marchion Ro nails.
There you go. So. Do you do that? Did those yourself, or you went to a place? Give me the High Republic. I need some Marchion Ro.
No, I did this myself. I think it was Hope. I was telling her I stopped breathing when I was doing the swirl. I'm not very good at doing designs, so I was just using a toothpick, and I just basically stopped breathing until it was done. But okay.
Yeah, great. I saw those yesterday. No, we gotta talk about this, because anything High Republic, anything showing people's creativity is gonna be there. All right, and also, Kat is here, Vader Girl, saying hi to everyone. How are you doing, Kat? So, so High Republic, like I mentioned at the beginning, it was supposed to start last year, I think summer of 2020, but of course, something happened in 2020 that changed everything. And unfortunately, it's still going around, but hopefully it's getting better. So, it got pushed till the beginning of 2021, and then we got the release of Light of the Jedi and A Test of Courage came out, I think, around the same time. I got Test of Courage first, so I read that one first, and then Into the Dark came a few months later, I think middle of February, I think Into the Dark came out. And of course, a bunch of other comic books have come from Marvel and IDW. Have you had a chance to read the comic books, or are you only focusing mostly on the books?
I have. I've read the comic books digitally, and then I've ordered the trade paperback. So when that comes out, I'll have it all bound together. But I've read them.
Yeah, I haven't. It's too much. So I wanted.
It's a lot.
Yeah, they look great. Some of the characters I'm very interested in. I haven't been able to get into them, so maybe later when it's a little bit more compact, I'll get into it. But
in like an omnibus or something.
Yeah. So one cool thing that we also got a few weeks after the release was that they showed. Let me show this real quick. They broke down what the High Republic is going to be divided into 3 phases. Mm-hmm. If you're a geek or whatever, they're into a lot of fandoms. Phases are everything. Thanks to Marvel, phase 1, 2, 27. So Star Wars broke it down into 3 phases. We're currently now in phase 1 with Light of the Jedi. Then we have phase 2 in a few, Quest of the Jedi, and it finishes off with phase 3, Trials of the Jedi. And one thing we didn't know, at least I didn't know, it's how long is each phase going to be. Is phase 1 already over? But a few days ago, so they posted an update of the new books coming in the summer, and they said, okay, this is phase 1, wave 2. Mm-hmm. So this first half of the year, everything we've gotten is phase 1, wave 1, and that's what we're going to be focusing in on today. Yeah. So to go ahead and start this conversation, for me, like I asked you, what are you looking for in Star Wars? For me, when the High Republic was announced 2 years ago or whenever, because it first was Project Luminous and then High Republic, that this became my most excited Star Wars anything, the most anticipated, I should say. I love reading the Star Wars book. It's the only books I read. Sorry, I got out of college. I stopped reading. Give me Star Wars. I'll get some others. So this became my most anticipated Star Wars. And so far for me, they've knocked it out of the park, at least with the 3 books that I've read. And I'm extremely happy with where it's going. All the characters we've been introduced, the different versions that they see, the Force, the great villains with the Nihil and Drenkier, which are one of my favorites. So for you, were you interested in the High Republic when it was announced? And then what are your thoughts so far?
When it was announced, I was excited because it was books. So I'm like, okay, good. This is my kind of thing. But I very quickly got overwhelmed with all of the articles coming out because it's like more characters and more characters and more characters. I'm like, hang on, wait, I'm losing this. So, and I think that was a lot of people's sentiment, especially when it was just Light of the Jedi, that there are a lot of characters to keep track of. But I think now, after those 3 books, after the comics, it's kind of narrowing down a bit to the key players you do need to keep an eye on. My overall impressions is I love this era so much. It's like it's Star Wars history, essentially. Mm-hmm. And we know sort of where this is going to end up, because we know the Jedi are still around. We know there's still a Republic. So we have a vague idea of where this is all going to go. And it's how we get there that I'm very excited to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to go to the past, but don't go all that, because everyone wanted, give me Old Republic, because for some reason, people just want to repeat everything that we have already gone over. So when it went this 300 years before Phantom Menace, it gives them like 300 years, even though we know where it's going to end. There's a lot of playroom in that time frame. And I love, like I said, not just because we learn all the history of the past Jedi, we're seeing, and it gets me to thinking, how did the Jedi Order and the galaxy in general went from what we're seeing now in the High Republic to what we meet in the Phantom Menace? Because even the Jedi Order, at least for me, is very different in these 2 eras. They see the Force totally different. Most of the Jedi, maybe not the Grand Masters or the one on the councils, but a lot of the Jedi are not as strict as the Jedi that we know. They see the Force in different ways. They don't shut out the dark side. Not that they use it, but they don't want to. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
They want to understand it a little bit and know that it's not just a direct path. Oh, you did one bad deed. Sorry, bye. You're evil now. And you learn a lot. And we're going to talk about Way Seekers and the Barrage Vow and everything that happens in all these books. But so the big idea for the Republic, not the big idea, the way it starts is with this great disaster, because the great Chancellor, I want to get your thoughts on the Chancellor of the High Republic, Lina Soh, that wants to bring everyone into the Republic, and we're all going to be friends, even though because I was thinking about this yesterday, because Light of the Jedi, which is our introduction to the High Republic, starts with this cargo ship, basically, the Legacy Run, taking people from the core worlds and the mid worlds because it's overpopulated. You can't live here anymore. You're going to the outer rim. So basically, refugees going out. But then you have the chancellor saying, "No, I want to bring the outer rim in. They want to be part of the republic." Well, the republic is already sending its people outside because there's no space for you here. So we don't want you. But yeah, we are all the republic because we love everyone. So Lina Soh, because I'll give props to you. And again, I gave it to Maggie when she was here. We talked a little bit about the High Republic. I didn't pick on this at all when I read Light of the Jedi. I was all, yes, we're all the Republic. I love the Jedi. And then, really? How about this and this and that? So Lina Soh, when you read Light of the Jedi and you were reading through it, did you pick up on anything that maybe she's not as a good person as she's trying to sell herself?
I'm always wary of the Chancellor of the Republic anyway, just because of Palpatine and even like Palpatine having too much power and Mon Mothma being scared of her. So I'm always very wary of the Chancellor. And so I was a little, cautious with Lina Soh. And then a couple things sort of set off alarm bells. Primarily her being less about wanting to bring the outer worlds in and more sort of let me show them the great works of the Republic. And she's concerned about what her next great work is going to be. Now, like if you set out to make yourself legendary, you're going to hurt people in the process. You're not trying to make it better. You're trying to make yourself look good. So I don't trust Lina Soh at all. And then my other thing too is that, she's sending, you say refugees, but to me, it's like she's sending colonists out to worlds where people already live. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're going to make you part of the Republic, but there's already beings living there.
Yeah.
And she doesn't seem to care. Mm-hmm. She's like, this is going to become part of my government now. I'm like, but they have their own government. They have their own system. They're already living there. So I'm a little sus of Lina Soh.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point because she's building this great starlight beacon in the middle of the outer rim to show everyone, look how good we are. It's not trying to be that unifying, let's try to help. Is look how great the Republic is. Maybe you should join us, but do as I say. And then we have, I'll jump a little bit ahead because reading what's going to happen in this wave 2, one of the books are talking now about this galactic fair or something like that. Yes, we saved the day. Now we have a party out here. It's like, dude, chill out. You just got into a lot of trouble. And now you turn another big party to celebrate yourself, celebrate the Jedi that, like you said, that they don't want you guys out there.
No, and it's like, look how great the Republic is and look what the Republic can do for you. I'm like, but you didn't ask them if they wanted you here.
Yeah. So for when you read Light of the Jedi, what were your impressions of the book? Apart from, there might be some ulterior motives here for Lina Soh and this thing that she's building out there. Just the book in general, what were your thoughts about it? The new Jedi, the way they see the Force and all that.
I love, I'll be harsh on the Jedi, but I love the new Jedi characters that we have. Avar Kriss, Elzar Mann, I love them. I love the way that they perceive the Force differently.
Yes.
I love the different approach to the Jedi Order because it's like you said, they're not as strict as the Jedi we know in the prequels. And they're a little more open and more in touch with the rest of the galaxy. And they seem a little less closed off and more. I know they like shun attachment, but they do get attached to their friends, to their colleagues, to their Padawans. And they don't seem to have as much of a problem with that. They're not trying to keep everybody at arm's length. So I think that's obviously going to change at some point. I wonder if we're going to, we're probably slowly going to watch this happen through the 3 phases. So they're setting us up with these characters that I love, and then we're going to watch it all fall apart. So that was my impression of the Jedi.
And I'm on 2 sides. Yes, I want to see it happen, and I don't, because I don't want to see them suffer. Because I'm a sucker for Jedi. My favorite thing about Star Wars is the Force, and everything has to do with the Force. And I'm a Jedi through and through. People think, even my wife says, oh, you're a Sith. You like the dark side. No, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. So I've always been that part. So I got emotional like the characters in that book, especially I think chapter 3, when our Kriss shows up. Oh, this is our Kriss of the Jedi Order. How can we help? Or here, help us. I teared up because finally. Because for the first 2 chapters, they lost that transport. We thought everyone was dead. Second chapter, this poor kid that's going to ask out this girl at the bar that he likes. It's the first one to die because of the great disaster. Chapter 3 comes in, something's gonna crash into the planet. I'm like, oh no, whole billions of people are dead. No, the Jedi are here. They're gonna save the day. Yes, the Jedi. And then when they're in that other planet, riding those steels, those horses, trying to save the people that got kidnapped. And when they see the lightsabers, oh, the Jedi. And I also get excited. But then there's the other side, and we'll get to the villains in a minute.
I've been talking around it, but yeah.
Yes, I know. We're trying to, because once we start, we might not come back to anything else.
But I will say, I too really like the Force stuff. That's my favorite Star Wars stuff is Jedi stuff.
And then, like you said, one of the greatest things that we knew about this even before the book came out, because like you said, there were a lot of articles that came out before that the Jedi of this era sense the Force in different ways, which is something we had no idea could happen. And I love the way like everyone sees it. And Ava Chris was my favorite Jedi of Flight of the Jedi, and the way she connects with everyone. To me, she became kind of the Yoda of this era. She might not be the most powerful, but she's the one that we need help. We need someone to get us all working together and save the day. Okay, Ava, you're up. And I love that about her. And she, so far, I know she's in some of the other comics, but at least in Light of the Jedi, she's been very even keel, very Jedi-like. I got this. Let's save everyone. And I fell in love with her, and I can't wait to see what happens coming up.
If you love Ava or Chris, you should definitely read the comics when they're out because she's now the head Jedi of the Star. I can't remember the title, but she's now running the Starlight Beacon, at least in part.
Okay. Yeah.
She plays a very big role in the comics.
We have Andres saying in the chat, yes, the various way Jedi perceive the Force has been my favorite addition to canon recently. Yes. Again, just learning more, because that's one thing about Star Wars. Every time you see a movie, there's a new Force power or something that comes out. People usually lose it now. Oh, we've never seen that before. Well, dude, we're learning new stuff. So I learned that we're learning all this now from the Jedi. And before we jump into the villains, let's jump around a little bit. Since we're talking about Jedi, one of my other favorite Jedi, because it was the first one that I read, was Vernestra Ro from A Test of Courage. I love this young girl, 16 years old, already a Jedi Knight. And like you were saying, the Jedi are not as close stuff as the one that we've met before. She has this light whip. And light whips are just used by dark side for users, the Night Sister, and some other. But then she comes and said, the Force led me to this design. So if the Force led me to this, I can't believe that it's wrong. So I love learning that already from in what people, it's a young reader novel or a middle grade. It's some of the best Jedi and Force stuff is in that middle grade book. So I love that Justina Arlen just said, I don't care who read this. We're going deep into Star Wars here, having to deal with loss for Imri and for the name of the other kid that lost his father.
Harmony? No.
Yeah, Harmony West. Harmony West lost his dad. Imri lost his master. They're touching the dark side. He's going dark. Vern has to, okay, dude, you're still a kid. Let me knock you down a peg or two. So I really love that character. I can't, and she then takes him as her Padawan learner, which is going to be great for one of the books coming out. So going a little bit to A Test of Courage and Into the Dark, if you want to jump into, what are some of your other favorite Jedi, and what about them do you love?
So I like Vernestra Ro and Imri, and I really like the potential of what their dynamic is going to be going forward, because she's his Jedi master now, but she's only 2 years older than him. And he's already sort of going through this tumultuous loss of his master, and he now has to sort of treat her like the primary caregiver in his life almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's going to do to them, but it's fascinating to watch it unfold. And then for Into the Dark, I very quickly attached to Des Ryden.
Okay.
Because of what happens to him with the Drangir and how it could, because the Force is such a part of, everything in the galaxy, but more part of the Jedi because they hone it, because they're in touch with it. It's a part of themselves. It's a part of their soul. And for the Drangir to make him doubt that, and for them to make him lose that connection is such a terrifying way to sever somebody's soul that I want more about him. And I don't know that we're going to get it, but I would love to see, because I know the other Jedi that pop up, all of whom I love because Claudia Gray can do no wrong.
No.
I just really hope we get to see a bit more of Des, like maybe as we dive in more into the Drangir and what they do, just to see what happens to somebody who has their connection to the Force severed when it's been with them their whole life.
Yeah. Yes, I want to go back a little because again we talked about Jedi being a little bit different, not showing too much the relationship or having connection with other people. And we see this even from Light of the Jedi. We know that Ava Chris and I forgot his name. I wrote it down.
Elzar Man.
Elzar Man, thank you. There's so many, like there's so many characters in that book. But there's something there. They even acknowledge it to a point. She kind of, it's there, but I'm not gonna act on it. They'll act on it. I think it's
because they did already when they were Padawans.
Yeah, they're in Naboo. They're hanging out in Naboo as exes with the Santecas, just hanging by the lake,
romantic lake house.
Yes, and then by themselves in the Starlight Beacon, just the two of them by this garden. So something's gonna happen there. So, and I'm very interested in that. And then jumping into the dark, we see what became two of my favorite Jedi of all time already in Ola Jareni and Comac Virus, having to deal with loss. I love Comac saying that the Jedi teach us not to form attachments, but then we're attached as Master and Padawan since we're kids, and we're supposed to have a connection, but not really a connection. And then I have to let my Master die out here in the sands, and he's one with the Force now. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. I have formed a connection with this person when this Raiden supposedly dies, and he's like, we're here. This kid goes unmourned because the Jedi tell us that we can't form connection, and that's wrong. And I just broke down because that's 100% true. And we haven't heard that before. So I love seeing that the Jedi all having these conversations. And for Ola Jareni, which I love the idea of a way seeker. So I'm not a fan, and I've said it every time I talk about it, I'm not a fan of the Grey Jedi mindset.
So don't worry.
But thank you. But a way seeker, yes. You don't know, the Force is telling you one thing and the Jedi Order is telling you something else. Where do you fall? Because we gotta follow the Force. The Order has its own ideas and ways of doing things, but if the Force is telling me something different, that's what I need to follow. So I gotta see if I can still be part of this Jedi Order. I gotta go and find myself, basically. So I love that. She'll go and do whatever. And then for this Raiden, like you mentioned, very surprised that he died middle of the book.
Yeah.
And then poor Reed Silas, whose whole world got shattered in that little 2-week trip or whatever, because lost his friend, lost his master, then gave the Nihil all the information for the Republic and the Jedi, because I'm gonna be cool. The Jedi were so awesome, and lost everything. But I love hearing this Raiden come back and say, my connection to the Force was shattered, was broken. I gotta find it again. And he goes Barrage Vow 20 years or whatever it takes him.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing because you've read the comic books, the first time at least for me that I read about the Barrage Vow was in one of the Charles Soule Darth Vader comics. This other Jedi that took the Barrage, and it's been hiding for I don't know how much, not hiding, but meditating. And now Des is gonna do that. I do hope that he comes back, like you said, and that we find what's going on with him. So it's going to be very interesting in the future. We got a bunch of new books coming out that hopefully dive into that. We have
so much time, too. We have 250 years, so there's no reason we can't. Can't see Des again.
All right, so I think we circled the topic a little bit. So let's jump into, for every great Jedi, any Star Wars conflict out there has to be a villain. And it can't be the Sith, because Phantom Menace said the Sith has been gone for thousands of years, or however long Mace Windu and Yoda said. And here we got introduced to the Nihil, that we were said, so the Nihil is this group of marauders, pirates, murderers, whatever, the Vikings of the galaxy. They just take what they want and kill whoever gets in their way, basically. So when you heard that the Nihil were going to be the villains of the High Republic, what was your thoughts? And then reading, let's start with Light of the Jedi, and of course we'll finish with Marchion Ro. But the Nihil, expectations were met, over, under? So go ahead, just talk about the Nihil for a little bit.
So my expectations for the Nihil were very much exceeded. I thought that okay, space pirates, it's going to last us maybe one wave of books. And then they're going to find something new and they're going to get bigger and maybe it's going to be somebody with the Force and whatever. So for the Nihil to then come in and they're this very strange, complex system because they're kind of unified under one leadership, but they're kind of not. And they sort of exist on the fringe and they're sort of serving themselves, but they sort of serve their community too because they have to sort of divide their take between the Tempests. And that they have a structure like this at all, that they have a storm-based structure. I'm like, oh, there's a lot to this. They're not just, pirates on the high seas.
Yeah.
And then I know we're going to get into Marchion in the end, but then at the end of Light of the Jedi, when he tells Loden that, the Republic has moved into our home and they've moved into where we live. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm on your side. Just a little bit because it's this or Lina Soh. So I know where I stand. I'm like, okay. So they also have all this marauding, heartless, ruthless, they'll kill anybody who gets in their way method and they'll play 4D chess while everybody else is playing checkers. But at the same time, they're trying to protect their home and where they live. So there's that facet of them too. So way exceeded what I thought based on the press release.
Yeah. So it took me a little bit to get behind it now because not the press release. Okay, we saw a bunch of concept art that look extremely cool. It's not one species. There's been kind of the issue before, just one species being the bad guys or whatever. So it's just this group of Outer Rim marauders. That's basically what we knew. But it took me a bit getting to Light of the Jedi, getting to the now, reading Light of the Jedi. They were a very interesting group of, I don't want to say villains, but let's say they were villains in the book. But to me, it's a pyramid scheme, right? Okay, you start as a cloud, you do a few things, you bring more people into your fold, you become a storm, and then you become a tempest, but you got to do all this. So it was a pyramid scheme, which unfortunately been in some of those. I haven't been in one. Let me rephrase that. I've interviewed for places that seem like pyramid schemes. But as it starts getting closer to the end and Marchion Ro start kind of tipping his hand, because at first he's like, yeah, I'm not the leader. I'm just here to give you the path. Well, you guys cannot decide what you need to do. And then halfway or 3/4 to the book, he said, okay, this is done. I have my way of doing things. If you guys don't get on board, sorry. I forget the name of the Tempest runner that I got. Tessa. Yeah, Kassav. Sorry, dude. Kassav. Yeah. Sorry, dude. You're a pawn in my game, like you said. Thank you for playing, but I got bigger things. I'm going galaxy-wide, like he said. And then he tips his hand. And like you said, revealed, you came to our place. We have our own way of doing things. Nobody called you. Nobody wants you. I'm going to start doing things. I'm not going to keep it out here in the Outer Rim. I'm going out there. And that's when I started getting to that character. So for you, since I haven't read the comics, and I know he's the Nihil and a little bit Marchion has been involved in some of the comics, what else have you learned from them that for people like me that have only read the novels,
they
cannot...
So Marchion and the Nihil play a bigger part in the IDW than they do in Marvel. So far, what we've got from the IDW that I'm remembering is that the Nihil do, to an extent, work with the people in the Outer Rim, because Marchion's driving motivation is the Jedi. So we're sort of working to ferret them out and find Force sensitives. We also learned that the Gaze Electric, his ship, is so big, he has a stadium on board, like an animal fighting stadium. Like Maggie sent me a picture, goes, this can't possibly be on purpose. I'm like, yes, it is. So yeah, so that's what we learned about him, that this man is extremely over the top.
I gotta get into some of those comics. So Marchion Ro, so what is it about him that makes him such a compelling villain, a compelling character that gets a lot of people on his side? Because I know we don't want the Republic here. You can say that other people might be saying the same thing. What is it about Marchion that you think has, for just Star Wars fan in general, have just gravitated to him? Or what is it about him that you really like?
So, there's half of us in this fandom love a villain. So there was that. Then there's also me, the second, I think it was Charles Soule, saying that he's a bad guy. He's just the worst. He's just pure evil and whatever. I'm like, well, I have to be interested now. So that was a joke. Like off the top, I'm like, oh well, clearly
Sure.
I'm gonna love him because he's a bad guy with a mask, and I have my Kylo Ren thing. But then you get into the book, and then you see that he's really tough and scary among the Nihil, and he's just somebody very much to be feared. Then he's got Mari Santeca, and he's almost like a child when Mari's around.
Yeah.
Like he's much softer when she's there. And then there's, you know, his plotting, and then his motivation behind the whole thing isn't just let me blow them up because they're here, but you know, his family has lost people to the Jedi, to the Republic.
Yeah, I think to the Jedi. He's
to the Jedi because that's what he was telling Loden. So he's lost his family to the Jedi, and now the Jedi are moving in with their big fancy space station, and Marchion's got a problem with that. So it's beyond being a villain; he's a motivated villain.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's an understanding motivation too, especially if you don't already trust that the Republic is moving into his territory essentially, and they're bringing the people who destroyed his family with them. So he's got every reason to be upset.
So do you think that he's going to be able to get more people from the Outer Rim to basically join his cause and kind of not fight off, but be more, we don't want the Republic here, just we have our own way, we have Marchion here with us. Do you think he'll be able to gather more of the Outer Rim population behind him?
I think he's going to try, because they lost Kassav. I'm pretty sure they lost at least half his Tempest, if not more. Like they lost a huge chunk of the Nihil forces.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have to recruit from the Outer Rim. But the thing is, 250 years from now, we still have the Jedi. We still have the Republic. We don't hear about the Nihil anymore. I don't think he's going to succeed, but I do think he's going to try. Maybe they exist in some other form that we just don't know. But I think he's going to have to eventually pull on the Outer Rim, the people who were already there before the Republic started sending people out, and sort of try to get them to become Nihil as well. Okay.
So we keep moving, and we'll jump into the second group of villain. But also, do you think for the Nihil, because we don't know what happens because they're not around at the end of this. Do you think it's either the Jedi, the Drengir that we'll talk in a few minutes, or some other type of faction out there that comes and takes them out? Or I guess my question, you think that now are going to last all the way to the end of the High Republic 3 phases?
I don't know. I think they might give rise to something bigger, and that in like a generation or two, they might become something different. It would actually be very interesting to see if every generation or so, the way the Nihil work changes a little bit, so that by the time we're maybe 10 years out from the Phantom Menace, 20 years out from the Phantom Menace, we can recognize what they have become. Okay. And they've become like something new. Like I know a lot of people on Twitter are like, what if they became the Cloud Riders from Solo? Like, what if that's what they turn into? Yeah. So it'd be very cool if we watch them progressively change into something more familiar.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. And we have Wave 2 coming in a few months. Yeah. So the Drengir. Into the Dark became my favorite Star Wars book, just that second half. The way that Claudia Gray, once they go back to Coruscant with the idols, which again, talking with Andres from 60 Minutes, we're talking about colonization and all that stuff. And the Republic just taking idols that didn't belong to them out of the Outer Rim to the core, like they do all the fancy art that they find in Africa, all those places, taken to Europe. Look at our great museums of art that were stolen. But then, so that's when this book kind of took off for me, and I just love everything else. And then we get introduced to the Drengir, these plant-killing whatever that are just so imbued in the dark side that the Sith couldn't deal with them. The Sith were like, no, you're too dark for us. We're going to try to conceal you here. And then they just take over. They're in this planet when they take over. They get this and then go to the Amaxine station, and all hell breaks loose. And I love that Drengir. For me, I like the Drengir more than the Nihil so far. But I also know the Drengir have been in some of the comic books recently. So the Drengir, for you, a good villain? You prefer the Nihil? Where do you see them? Because I know there was a little bit of clash in Into the Dark, because all of them were in that same space station. Do you think we'll have the Drengir having some clashes, and then with the Jedi also be a big brawl between all three?
I think so. When they first announced the Drengir, I thought that was for the IDW comic and the middle grade book, because they're talking plants. So I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But okay. So we get to Into the Dark, and I'm like, this is the scariest thing I've ever
Yes.
seen in my life because of what they do to Des, and the way they just kind of get into his head and the way they sever his connection to the Force. So I've come around on the Drengir. I think they're extremely scary. They're the bigger threat right now in the Marvel comics as well. And I think where it's going to build to is that they aren't going, because they're not as big an organization as the Nihil is. They're more sort of independent. I think they're going to be
it's difficult for plants to get people on their side. Come on,
they don't have a hierarchy. I think they're going to be the chaos agent, the like unpredictable element of this conflict between the Nihil and then the Jedi/Republic. Because whenever they think they've got it, like in Into the Dark, you know, there is that conflict, Nihil, Jedi/Republic, and then in the middle of all this on the Amaxian station, we have the Drengir making things worse. So I think that's going to be their role as they become like a bigger and bigger threat because the Republic underestimated them. And I don't know what they've done, setting them loose or what, but
yeah, I'm like you. When I saw that image of the Drengirs, okay, some plants, they'll be in one comic or in one story, and that's it. And then this is where freaking spoilers, and it's Star Wars. So I was reading Into the Dark, probably about 3 or 4 days into it. And then those little shorts that Star Wars releases on Twitter about different characters, they did the one for the Drengir. And they talk about how they're in the space station under all this dark force energy in the Amaxian space station Into the Dark. And it was right there in the book, right before they woke up. And you just spoiled who's going to be the bad guys in the book. It really didn't matter because the way Claudia Gray wrote them was just amazing.
Did you see it coming at all?
No. Even when in the first half, they're going down the station, there's some plants. Oh, yeah, they're poisonous. I got pricked. I'm dying. Save me with your illegal spice. Thank you to, I forget his name. Leox Yassi. Thank you for having that illegal spice. And because they're medicinal. Like he said, it's medicinal. Don't worry. Very similar to marijuana and everything trying to get legalized now. So I didn't expect it at all, even though we had plants in the book and they had those droids that were the gardener droids. Thank you, because they saved the day later. So when the Drengir came, both in the station and that planet, it was just something I didn't expect. No way of knowing I was gonna like them so much, or that that was their thing. Because there were plants sentient plants. That's what we knew before. But having them being this connected to the dark side. And what they do to Des, it's everything for the Drengir. Just, again, hats off to Claudia Gray for making plants terrifying. Yes. All right. So as we move forward now to phase 2, or I should say wave 1 of phase 2 of the High Republic, we got, I think last week, a quick breakdown of all the new books are coming, comic books and also books, but some of them ones I'm really interested in. I want to hear your take. First is basically the follow-up to Light of the Jedi. It's The Rising Storm, written by Cavan Scott, which is the follow-up to Light of the Jedi. Lina Soh is so happy that the day was saved, and she's throwing this fair, which this is where I'm going to say I'm apprehensive, because it might be the same thing as the Drengir. Listening, it's going to be a Star Wars fair, really, for some reason, doesn't get me. So hopefully the book does. But I'm really interested in this because it is the follow-up to what started the High Republic. So are you excited for the Rising Storm? Again, Rising Storm, you know that Nalo are going to be very into this because I think the description does talk that they're going to, no, you're not going to do this here. So are you looking forward to this and any expectations of what might happen?
So I'm very much looking forward to this one, partially because I feel like the adult novels, so like Light of the Jedi and now The Rising Storm, are where we really get the most Marchion Ro. So I'm very excited for this because, he's Into the Dark for a second, and he's not in Test of Courage at all, and he's in the IDW comics a little. But so we're getting that because that's where his main plot is. So now that the book starts with us already knowing roughly the gist of the Republic and the Starlight Beacon and Marchion, then now knowing what's driving everybody going into this fair, I think the fair is a great excuse to just get everybody on the Starlight Beacon, so we can all be in one place and not hop around maybe as much as Light of the Jedi did, and have it all concentrated and really intense. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. And we get Stella and Giaz leading this one, who I was very curious about because he looks like a Obi-Wan Ben Solo hybrid to me. So I'm okay.
Yeah, he was like mentioned once or twice, I think, in Light of the Jedi.
Avar and Elzar's friend that they talk about sometimes, but now he's taking center stage. So
it's about, I don't want to say about time, we've been on this for 6 months, but he was kind of pushed out there when the High Republic started in the market, and we saw his lightsaber was the first one that we saw. I think his design was one of the first one, and then we didn't see him.
I was very surprised we haven't seen him yet. Other than, I think, I don't even think we really see him. Like Vern talks about him because he was her Jedi Master, and Avar and Elzar talk about him, but I don't think we've really seen him yet.
No, I think they just Stellan is there helping push that container away from the sun.
Hi, Stellan over there. Like,
so very interesting to see this character now. I'm sure we'll get more with Avar and Elzar. So very interested in the Rise of Storm. And before we jump to the next one, because you were talking how much you liked it now, Kassav is gone. Then we'll get another audio drama featuring the Now with Lorna D, which is one of the Tempest runners out there. I haven't gotten into the audio dramas, but you're a Now fan. You got the shirt.
Big Now fan.
So Lorna D. I didn't catch the name of the book, but
I think it's just called Tempest.
There you go, Tempest Runner. Interested, I'm guessing, in this one.
So excited that we're having a story focused entirely on the Nihil from their point of view. I feel like Lorna D has a lot of interesting potential. She almost feels like a loose cannon a little bit.
Mm-hmm. She is.
Loose cannons always make for more interesting plots. So I'm very, very excited, and I've loved the audio dramas so far. So I hope this means more audio dramas in the High Republic.
Yeah, I think I'll probably get that one because we always. I don't want to say we always, because I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people want to see a darker side of Star Wars. Give me that R-rated or whatever. I don't think we need that in Star Wars, but seeing something completely from the point of view of the antagonist, so we're not going to call them villains anymore, it's going to be very interesting. And Lorna D was one of the highlights in the Now camp. We didn't get too much with Pan Ayera. I don't know how you mention it with the other guy.
Ada,
there you go. Pan, that's bread in Spanish. Every time I read his name, I just got hungry for some more bread. So it'll be interesting to see something from her side. All right, so before we keep going, we say hi to a friend of ours. He's here, Roberto Venegas. You know him as Roberto Draws on Twitter. Does some great art out there. Hey, thanks for being here, live stream. There's some great art for Star Wars. He's doing one now with Vader, Anakin. It's awesome. You gotta follow this guy. Trying to get you here soon. All right, so, and then we have Out of the Shadows by Justina Arlen. I believe this is going to be a YA. I don't know if it's middle grade again. So people that complain at YA, get out of here. So I think some of my favorite Star Wars books are YA, and you get so much out of them. And I love the adult novels like Light of the Jedi, but it takes a little bit more. Like Alphabet Squadron, man, you got to give it like a whole month to read that book. It's so dead. We'll talk about Alphabet Victory Prize next week. I know. Victory Prize will do that show next week, but Out of the Shadows. Here we have Vernestra Ro, Imri, Reed Silas. So some of my favorite characters from Into the Dark and Atesso's Courage are going to be in this book. They're in Coruscant. We got a new pilot that comes in. She has to deal with some issues with her families. And then political things are going to be happening. I believe there's a familial politics. Jedi get involved, of course. Can't wait for this one. I think this might be my most anticipated Out of the Shadows, just because it has Vern, like you said, how she deals with being Imri's master, how he's going to deal with everything that happened to him before. Reed Silas has Cormac Virus as his master. I don't know if Cormac is going to be there. So very excited for Out of the Shadows.
I'm the same. And like, I'm like you, I love the YA stuff. I think that's where the most sort of the adult stuff is really good at, like the big world stuff and the action, and it does get into character quite a bit, especially when it's Claudia Gray. But the cool thing about the YA is so much of it is character driven, and it's reacting to things, how they're reacting to the world around them. And I think it's interesting with the synopsis for Out of the Shadows, and like Into the Dark, it's not focused on the main action the way the adult and middle grade books are. So like in wave 2, both the adult and middle grade are focused on this Republic fair going on at the Starlight Weekend. Out of the Shadows is taking place somewhere else entirely. I think they're on Coruscant.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that's happening on Coruscant. Just like the Into the Dark was on the Amaxine station and had very little to do with the Great Disaster, other than the fact that it's sort of happening in the background. So I think that's very interesting that they removed the YA story from the main plot. So I'm very, very excited to see how all this is going to happen.
Yeah, completely agree. I mentioned when I talked about Light of the Jedi that first book had to be like that. It had to be dense. It had to be this galaxy-wide event because we're not exploring but introducing a new era in Star Wars. It had to be that big book. But I wanted something smaller, some other conflicts going around. That's what A Taste of Courage gave us. And of course, Into the Dark, just being completely character-driven. And again, Claudia Gray, when we talked about Into the Dark, myself and Andres, half of it was just singing her praises, how much we love Claudia Gray, how she should be doing more in Star Wars apart from writing books, which keep going, please, but be more involved in storytelling. He even mentioned maybe part of the story group because, at least on my end, she understands the world of Star Wars or the themes of Star Wars better than anyone out there. So yeah, very interested for Wave 2 of the High Republic.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else about the 3 books or comic books that we didn't touch that you want to talk about before we move into our fan questions?
Other than the fact that, once again, for the record, I adore Marchion Ro. I've got nothing else.
I know. We could keep talking.
We go on and on and on.
Let's talk a little bit more because, whatever. So Marchion Ro, let's go now with aesthetics. Just his design is just so cool. He has like 20 helmets, which I love. I got my helmets. Where are they? Back there.
Yeah, you're a helmet guy.
Two. I gotta get a Marchion Ro helmet. The one with the galaxy or whatever it is in the middle is awesome. He has his fur coat on, that weird light gun or whatever blaster he has that he showed Loden. Oh, I got this rod. Just his design is. What do you think about his design, just in general?
First of all, Marchion Ro, fashion icon, as confirmed by the judge of all things canon, Daniel Jose Older.
Yeah,
he's a fashion icon.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I love a couple things about him. First of all, like you said, the aesthetic, the helmets and the capes, and he's so delightfully over the top. He's not like, the streamlined, I'm all in black and I'm evil and shadow. He's like, no, I'm going to wear this fur cloak and have my very over the top gun.
Yeah.
And we're just going to. Yeah. And then I'm fascinated by the fact that we have no idea what his face looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we have a vague idea. Like, we know that he's got shark eyes, like all black eyes. Like
all black eyes, kind of slate gray skin.
Long hair. That's all we've got. But that's fine with me.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. There's something we don't get fashionable villains in Star Wars very often. I know we all kind of tease Ben Solo / Kylo Ren about his very fancy whatever, but it's still an all black thing that if you're not looking that closely, you can't really see it. Marchion Ro doesn't care. He's got the jacket with the V and the little studs and the
every comic, all those variant covers, he's always wearing something different. Yeah, that V-neck that he has,
a golden armband just because.
Either the helmet with the dark and the galaxy, or the one with the 2 tubes coming out, which I also love. It's Marchion Ro, like you said, galaxy fashion icon, but you gotta be careful. Yeah, because he does take his helmet off for his people. He does take it off Into the Dark, so it's not like a Mandalorian kind of thing. He'll just, I don't care, just see my face, because when this comes off, people, okay, something's gonna go down. So
like they know what he's capable of. So.
Yeah, so it'll be great. So with that said, let's jump into one of my favorite segments on this show, and it's Rebel Thoughts, when we talk about your questions. I posted out on Twitter for you guys to send me either any questions about the topics we're talking about today or your thoughts on it. And today we have a couple of questions from some of our friends out there. Actually, one of them was here. I don't know if Oti from the podcast of Star Wars is still here, where he sent us one of our questions. Actually, he had to leave. He'll come back later. So he says, and I should put it up here for everyone to see. Maybe if I share my screen. There we go. So Oti asks, what character from each book and comic run of the first wave would you like to see team up? For example, Elzar from Light of the Jedi plus Leox of Into the Dark plus J6, the droid from A Taste of Courage, and Farsala from the IDW comics plus Seret and Terek. And that is a very loaded question. Thanks for it, Oti. So I'll start. I haven't read the comics, but I'll go ahead. I'll make a team up because I've seen some of them. So give me from. I gotta go with Avar Chris because that's my Jedi. So Avar Chris, give me Leox. No, you know what? Because we didn't talk about him, and I'm sorry I didn't bring you up. Give me Geode. So sorry, Geode, I didn't talk about you. I love you, Geode. So Avar Chris with Geode as the navigator of the ship. I gotta go with Vern. No, not Vern. Avon Staros from a Test of Courage. And from the comics, even though we did see him in A Test of Courage, I want Skier. I really like Skier when he was a little bit on A Test of Courage. I love the way he tells Imri and Vern that just going to the dark side is not a one and done. It's a series of bad events. It's not just one. I love that so much. Again, this is a middle grade book touching on dark side stuff that the movies never do. So I love Skier. I want to get a little bit with him. And his Padawan, which I forget her name.
Keith Travis.
Keith Travis. So give me those. That group. I'm not going to repeat it because I probably don't remember which ones I just said. But if you had a big Marvel-size Avengers team-up from everything out there, who would you pick?
So I've been thinking I almost want all the junior Jedi, like the teenagers, to all end up in one place. So that would be Keeve from the comics, Reef, Vern, and oh goodness, what's his name? Bell from Light of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the four of them, and I guess Farzala from IDW.
Okay. And if
you have Bell, the five of them, maybe on some mission, not on purpose.
Yeah,
like they didn't all set out to do that, but they all kind of wind up and have that kind of YA team up.
And if you have Bell, you need to have his Charhound.
Yeah,
that dog out there. So yeah, great team up. And thank you, Oti. That's a great question, which unfortunately I gotta read the comments to be able to answer that better. But like you said, I do like us seeing Into the Dark, and we'll get a little bit of it with Out of the Shadows. We know that Des, Reed, and Vern were friends. They went up through the Jedi Order. I mean, through the Jedi Order, whatever, the Council, the Trial. So they all grew up together, those young guys. So maybe we do get something like that in Out of the Shadows or moving forward with some of the others. All right, and our second and final questions come from another good friend of the podcast, Depa Banana Connor out there. He asks 2 questions I have. Who's your favorite High Republic Jedi so far, and why? And why is Geode? I knew Geode was coming back. I'm sorry, Geode. So, do you want to go first? Who's your favorite Jedi so far, and why? If you can pick, I can pick 1 or 2 if you want.
So, I think my favorite is probably Avar. Just because, we get the most time with her. And also, she's got this perfect Jedi veneer that I think is going to crack. Because with Elzar, that whole, scene on the Starlight Beacon, which seems very much like, why can't we just be together? And she's like, because we can't, and we have responsibilities. And he's sort of pushing on that, and she's got, the
blinders
perfect
on.
Jedi wall up.
Yeah.
And I would... very excited at the potential of digging in there because that's the kind of character stuff I like. So that's why I like Avar as much as I do.
Okay.
And why is Geode? Why not?
Yeah. Come
Geode
on.
is hysterical.
Geode's, man.
He's a party animal. We have to love it.
Party animal, compassion person, because he was there when they thought Desraiden was dead. He's the one consoling them.
Mm-hmm.
Geode.
He saved Reef's life.
He saved Reef's life. He pilots the vessel. Come on. You can't go wrong with Geode. So, favorite Jedi so far for me, I have to go with Orla Joreni from Into the Dark, just because the way her story goes, because she sees the Force as an instinct. And when they were in that conflict, I'm not going to say the name of the moons, she had an instinct. I have to deal with the kidnapper first and then save the people that are kidnapped. That's the way. But the order says, no, worry about the people first and then deal with the kidnappers. And they lost one person. She said, if I had followed the Force, what the Force was telling me, they would be alive. So if following the Force is wrong because the Order tells me something different, then I have to figure out what this means for myself in this Jedi Order. So she's not leaving the Jedi; she just wants to see if she should be part of it. And
can I just add on to that? The one thing I loved about Orla that is like what you just said, that her viewing the Force and her instinct as one and the same, and the Council and the Jedi Order kind of going against that. I think over the course of the High Republic, we're probably going to see that come up again and again and again, where the Council's orders sort of go against what the Jedi believe. And I think that's where the fracturing is going to start. And by the time we get to the Phantom Menace, it's just whatever the Council says and ignore your own judgment.
Yeah. So
I think Orla really planted a really interesting seed.
So following that thought, I was going to ask you anyways, but perfect segue. Do you think, and we're going to see the fall of a lot of Jedis, the Lost 20, which are all these 20 Jedi Masters? They don't say that they turned to the dark side. They just say they left the Jedi Order. Do you think we're going to see that here in the High Republic?
I think so. I'm assuming none of them have been lost yet. And it's going to start. And I think, by the time we get to just before the Phantom Menace, we will have seen 20 Jedi leave the Order, because it's a long, long time. So I almost wonder if Avar and Elzar will be the first, because they just leave to be together. But that's my romantic talking. But I do think that that's going to play a huge part, is that as these masters who kind of came up in this ideal time to be a Jedi, when they sort of knew that you have to trust the Force and trust your instincts over the word of the Council, that they all take that to such an extreme that they leave because this is no longer compatible with what they believe. And then the Order starts to fall apart.
Yes. And that's what I love so much about the High Republic. And Claudia Gray with Into the Dark did something I never thought was possible. I said this before when talking about Into the Dark. I always saw I was Kenobi. The Jedi Order, you have to follow the Order for a reason. And I love it. I'm a Jedi and I gotta follow it. But the way they was introduced first, or at least for me first, with Into the Dark, between Orla, Comac, the way that their vision of the Force is now having a conflict with the Order, and they having that, because Orla takes it, I gotta go way seeking. Comac says, I don't know where my allegiance to the Jedi is, basically, but I gotta go deeper into it. So that's why he takes Wreath with him. He's going the other way. And then, like you said, with Avar and Elzar, what's going to happen there? So I do think a lot of the Jedi are going to leave, because we don't, in the prequel trilogy, original trilogy, we don't hear anything about how the Jedi sense the Force. So maybe that's something that gets eliminated, because the Order can't deal with it, because everyone that senses the Force a different way has left, because yes, the Force is more important than the Jedi Order, and we can have it. So
it's like what Mace Windu says and I think it's in Attack of the Clones, where he tells Yoda that their ability to perceive the Force is diminished.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, that's how weak it's gone by that, where it's gone from one person seeing it like a song and one person seeing it like the rolling ocean, now to just they can't perceive it at all. So
yeah, I can't wait. The High Republic, again, was my most expected Star Wars storytelling out there. It's still one of my most, the thing I'm very interested in. Cassian and Kenobi go up there. And then we have the Acolyte, that is the kind of the rise of this dark energy. I don't know if it's of the Sith or just the dark forces out there at the end of the High Republic. So we know everything's going to connect to it. So very interested in all that. So, all right. I think that's our show for today. So also, again, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. I know we've been talking about this for a while. So yeah, where can our fine folks find you? And again, that little podcast coming out in a few days.
So you can find me personally on Twitter at Arezou Amin, and you can find all things Geeky Waffle at geeky_waffle. And you can find me at my site, arezou2.com as well. And then Space Waffles premieres on Monday, and you can find that anywhere you get podcasts.
All right. And I'm going to do something. I'm sorry. I just noticed I have your Twitter handle here wrong. I'm sorry that I had it for an hour and 20 minutes. So just for the end. There we go. I had a C for some reason in front of your name. I'm sure people know where to find you. But anyway, there you go. At Arezou Amin.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you again for being here. Everyone out there, make sure that you check out Space Waffle when it comes out, Geeky Waffle Networks, all over the place. So YouTube, their podcast, make sure to check that out. Like I mentioned at the beginning, make sure that you like this video. Leave us a comment later if you're watching this on the replay, or whenever you get a chance, you're bored at work, just press play. It has captions. You can put captions on it. Audio podcast comes out on Monday. You can listen there. Make sure that you're subscribed to it also, and leave us a rating and a review. Thanks to the chat, as always, everyone, for being here, making this a fun conversation. And I think that's it. So thank you, guys. Stay safe. Be safe. And may the Force be with you.
Radio